In this video, I'm going to teach you how to make a bar menu for a wedding or an event using these sublimation acrylic sheets that you can cut with your laser and then transfer your image using sublimation. I will start off by saying that this is an advanced tutorial, so if you are new around here and you have not ever attempted sublimation, I have an entire playlist dedicated to sublimation. So I'm here to hold your hand and teach you how to do sublimation. This will be more of an advanced tutorial, so go ahead and check out my other sublimation tutorials. I will link them in the video description. So these are sublimation sheets. They're from PYD Life. And these are my favorite acrylic sublimation sheets because they are clear on one side and on the back they have this white coating and you can transfer images on top of it. So I have a little sample to show you. So here's a little test print, but you can see that the image is on the front. It goes through the clear, but we actually transferred it onto the back. So when I was looking at the description, it said that these sheets are double-sided printable, but they're not really double-sided printable because we're going to transfer on the white coating side and you'll see through it to the other side. So I wouldn't technically call those double-sided. I will link this exact pack in my video description. They're from Amazon and they came with 8 sheets, full 12 by 12 sheets, and we're going to cut it using our Glowforge. If you don't have a laser to cut these sheets with, you can also buy shapes pre-cut. So let's start by grabbing my computer and designing our file and we'll get it cut. So over on my desktop, I've been working on this design and I've gotten a little smarter over the years. I've included the font names right here. So the script is that name there and the serif font is Athelis. Don't know how to pronounce either of those, but there you go if you're looking to recreate your own signature cocktail bar menu. And then I created this arch shape using basic shapes and then added these images that I purchased on Etsy. And then this is their cat. So I just typed it out, designed it up, and this is the shape that we will be cutting on that sublimation acrylic. And then I'm going to do a clear base. So to save all these different components, you can save them in multiple files, whatever you find easier. I'm going to do an arch and base file, and then I'm going to do this image file. So let's just take this shape over here. We're going to copy that and drag it into a new file. Okay, so I'm going to paste those in here. And you can see that I have my arch. We can make it a different color so we can see. We'll do a pink stroke so that the Glowforge knows that I want to cut that. And then for the clear one, I'll just do a black stroke. And we will need to adjust this part in a little bit. Okay, so we'll save this, save as, save on my computer, and we'll just call this arch and base. And we want to make that an SVG. And click save. The standard Adobe Illustrator settings are great. We'll click OK. And next we will head over to the Glowforge app or whatever laser you're using. I'm going to click Create New Design and we're going to upload a file. We'll choose the arch and base file. And once that comes into the software, I'm going to ignore this one and we're going to cut just the arch. So now I need to load my acrylic into my Glowforge so we can see a preview of that. When you load the acrylic into your Glowforge, it doesn't really matter which way you cut it. I usually put the white side down on the laser bed and the clear up, but it doesn't really matter. And then there is plastic on each side. Some people peel off the plastic and remask it, but I just cut it with the plastic on. So use your discretion on what you want to do there. You'll hear my Glowforge humming in the background now while that loads the preview. I won't keep you on this too long, so you don't have to listen to that humming. So now you can see the preview of my acrylic in my laser bed. I'm going to rotate my arch and drag it down to the corner. And since I'm cutting in the corner, I want to set my focus. So to do that, you click these 3 buttons here and then choose Set Focus. I'm going to set the focus in the middle of my design. So right here, just click and your laser will focus. And then if you want to adjust your position based on where it focused, you can toggle your arrows up and down to get the most out of your material. I try not to get too close because if for whatever reason the camera preview is off and you slightly cut off, you're wasting that entire amount as opposed to just saving this little amount. So I don't go too close to the edge, but enough where I feel like I'm not wasting material. For my material settings, I chose thick, clear acrylic. You can play around and test other material settings, but this one works great for me. It doesn't char my material, so thick, clear acrylic, and then just the proof grade settings is what I did for the cut. So you can just see it says proof grade cut, and if you want to know the actual settings, it's speed 126 and full power. Okay, so now we are going to click print right here, and it will estimate how long that will take. 2 minutes and 10 seconds, not bad. Let's get cutting. Here's how it came straight out of the laser, and you can see that there's a little bit of burnt. It looks like there's charring, but it's actually just that clear protective layer. So you can just peel that right off, and it gets a really great clean cut. There is also clear film on the front, so make sure to peel that as well. And I have the front peeled off and the back peeled off, and we'll get our sublimation print ready. For the sublimation print, here's my file. We are not going to mirror it. We're going to print it just like this. So I'm going to choose File, Print. I want to use my sublimation printer. Again, remember this material is only able to be used with sublimation ink, so you will need a sublimation printer for this. And then I'm going to choose Setup so I can get some more options on my printer. And I really just want to pay attention to the printer options. So color matching, I like Epson to control the color, and then print settings. I want to use DS Transfer Multi-Use Rigid since I'm transferring to a hard surface. And I'm going to choose Fine, and I do not want to mirror the image. So I want to unclick that and then click OK and then print. Here's my print off the sublimation printer, and you can see that it's not mirrored. And the reason that we're going to do that is because I'm going to lay my design right over the top of it. And I just want to make sure that my cat is not cut off. And then I'm also going to kind of shift it down just a little bit because I'm going to have that base plate. My base is this thick, so I don't want to cut off any of my image. Once I'm happy with my positioning, I'm going to start taping it in place with some heat resistant tape. So I'll just tape it. So now that it's all taped, I'm going to make a sublimation sandwich, as some people call it in the industry. So I'm going to flip over my sign that the paper will be on the top, and I'm going to fold over a sheet of butcher paper so that it covers my image. So I have butcher paper, my image, my material, and then more butcher paper on the bottom. And that will prevent my press from getting any sublimation ink onto it when I'm transferring my design. So I'll bring this over to my heat press. So here are my settings, 356 degrees for 120 seconds. They do recommend a lower temperature for a longer time so that you don't crack this material. So I tested it with 400 degrees in 60 seconds and it cracked the material. So I'm using a low pressure for a lower temperature and longer time. So while my sign is cooling off, I'm going to start on designing the base. And in order to do that, you do need to measure your actual material. So this is my excess material. You should measure your cut sign, but since that's still hot, I'm just going to use my excess. I did peel off the plastic because I don't want that to affect my measurements. And then I'm just going to use some digital calipers to get a good reading. My thickness is 0.1635 on that side. Let's see. On this side, 0.163. So we're going to use 0.163. I'm just going to double click on my slot, click transform, and I want to put in 0.163. And if you've seen my other tutorial, you know that I also minus 0.01 to get a nice tight fit. So I'm going to click OK. And then the width of my sign is 6.1294. So I want this with 6.1294 minus 0.01. I'm going to make sure that these are aligned perfectly. And then while selecting this inside piece and the outside piece, I'm going to make it a compound path. So I'm going to right click and say make compound path. And now I have my stand ready to go. So if I slide this over, it looks pretty good. If you're looking for a more comprehensive tutorial on adjusting the slot for kerf, that's what I just did, I do have a tutorial on table numbers and I will link it in the video description, and that kind of walks you through why I did what I just did. So now I'm going to save this file and bring it into the Glowforge software. We'll upload that. And for the base, I'm using super thick clear acrylic. So I'm going to load that in. I don't need my arch anymore, so I can either ignore it or delete it. I'm just going to ignore it so I can save this file. And I'm going to drag this over and center it on my clear acrylic. Let's start by setting the focus again. So I'm going to choose set focus, set it right in the middle. Now that the focus is set, I'm just going to drag this into position. This is a scrap piece of acrylic from some other projects. Thankfully, my stand fits between those holes. And then I'm going to click print. This cut will take about 3 minutes. I'm going to turn on my air filter and get going. I just pulled my base out of the Glowforge, and you will want to pay attention to which side is the top and which side is the bottom. So this is the side that was facing up in the laser. I'm going to peel off the protective sheet on just this side. That way I know it's the top when I go to insert my bar menu. My sign is still a little bit warm, but it does kind of warp if you don't put it underneath something. So I'm going to place my butcher paper back on top and then just put it under something similar size that's heavy. And then give it some pressure to keep it flat while it's cooling off. Here is the final sign. It did not crack at all. What I mean by crack is if you do too high of temperature or too much pressure, it will crack the printed coating on the back and it will split it. So no cracking on this one. I do think that you need to put something on top of it while it's cooling off to give it some pressure when you're doing a bigger shape. Your smaller shapes like this, they don't need any pressure because it's such a small area. But for these bigger shapes, you probably want it to cool completely underneath some type of weight. Just be careful not to crack it. So it is a little tiny bit bowed. I'm not sure if you can see that, but not bad. But if I put it under some weight, it probably would have been a little bit better. Before you place your sign into the slot, make sure it's cooled off completely, because if it's hot, the plastic will expand a bit and it won't fit into your slot. So make sure that it's room temperature before attempting to put it into the slot. And then since mine did bow just a little bit, I may have to kind of force it in the first time. So I'm just going to go slow and line it up and then just push down and wiggle into place. Okay, so it needs to come down a little bit on this side. Once it's all the way flush to the bottom, I'm going to peel off this liner. And I have my bar sign. So here it is. It fits perfectly into the sign. It's nice and tight so it doesn't wiggle when it's standing up. And it's not going to come out by just pulling on it. It feels like it's almost glued in there. So if you want to make sure it's all the way in there, just keep on messing with it until it's flush, which mine is flush all the way to the bottom. And now I have my signature cocktails. We did some play on words. My sister's husband-to-be, his name is Grayson, so he has a greyhound. Then we have an espresso martini for her drink, so double shot of love. And then their cat, Lenny, is a whiskey sour, so Whiskers sour. I think this is a super fun project. Anything with sublimation where it's transferring to acrylic, you get a really, really professional look where you get that glossy finish. I'm not sure if that reads on camera as well as it does in real life, but it looks super professional, like I printed it directly onto the acrylic. And then with the clear base, I feel like it just gives it a really, really high-end look. So hopefully you learned something new in this tutorial and you will attempt making your own signage. If you have any questions about where I purchased my supplies or how I did something, if I glossed over it, make sure to leave those in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to like it and consider subscribing to my channel for more tutorials. All right, I think that's everything. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.